That airline logo on the tail? Chances are the company behind it does not own the plane. Nearly two-thirds of the world's commercial fleet belongs to invisible landlords whose entire business rests on one assumption: the plane always comes back. In 2022, over 400 jets worth $10 billion did not. To understand why that broke the system, you first need to understand why the return matters more than the rent. Most travelers step onto a jet believing the airline name on the fuselage means owned. In reality, the majority of those planes are owned by leasing companies, financial landlords whose business depends not just on collecting rent, but on getting their aircraft back, intact and ready for the next customer. In North America, about 60% of commercial aircraft are leased. In Asia and Latin America, the figure climbs above 70%. These numbers are more than statistics. They reveal the backbone of modern aviation, where the true asset isn't a single lease payment, but the promise of repeated returns. A lessor typically buys a new narrow-body jet for around $100 million. The first airline might sign a dry lease, a contract lasting about 6 years, where the airline supplies the crew and handles maintenance, while the lessor holds the title. When that term ends, the lessor expects the plane back, along with a complete set of maintenance records, so it can be placed with another airline. Over the jet's 30-plus year life, this cycle repeats 3 or 4 times. The math only works if the plane keeps coming home. If you spread that $100 million over, say, 18 to 24 years of active leasing, the lessor needs to earn about $5.6 million per year, or roughly $465,000 per month, just to break even, before counting costs, financing, or profit. These figures are illustrative, but they show the logic: the return is the asset. Sale-leasebacks, where an airline sells a new jet to a lessor and immediately leases it back, turn a capital purchase into a manageable expense. For the lessor, it is not a one-time transaction, but a long-term project. The entire model is built on the assumption that the aircraft can be recovered, restored, and placed again. Repossession isn't a last resort. It is central to the business. If the plane can't be returned, the whole system starts to unravel. A dry lease hands the keys to the airline, but not just for flying. Under this arrangement, the airline, not the owner, takes on every aspect of day-to-day maintenance. The lessor holds the title, but the operator controls the aircraft's technical history. In practice, this means the most valuable documents, the logbooks, part tags, engine shop cards, and maintenance certificates never leave the airline's hands until the very end. These records are more than paperwork. Each completed logbook page and every part tag tells the story of an aircraft's life. When a component was replaced, which technician signed off on a repair, how many cycles a life-limited part has left. Shop visit certificates and engine shop cards document every overhaul, while compliance records for airworthiness directives and service bulletins prove the plane meets regulatory standards. Without them, the aircraft is just metal. No regulator will re-register it, and no buyer or new lessee will touch it. The system creates a quiet but powerful vulnerability. If an airline withholds or loses these records, the lessor may get the jet back, but not its value. The aircraft can be physically returned and still be commercially crippled, unable to fly for anyone else. Mechanics have a saying: the owner is a bank, but the bank never touches the logbook. Title to the metal is one thing. Proof of airworthiness is another. In this world, control over the paperwork means control over the asset's future. The Cape Town Convention was created to give lessors and lenders a sense of security in a world where jets cross borders as easily as clouds. Its international registry records who really owns or controls each aircraft, and the treaty sets out clear rules for who gets paid first if an airline defaults. With 84 countries signed on, the system is meant to lower the risk and the cost of financing an aircraft by making repossession less of a gamble. In theory, this framework should make it easy to recover a plane from almost anywhere on Earth, but the convention is only as strong as the courts and officials who enforce it. When a government decides not to play along, the registry's guarantees become just words on paper. A paper shield only works if everyone honors the paper. As sanctions closed in on Russia in early 2022, the aircraft leasing world faced a challenge it had never seen at scale. More than 400 leased jets, valued at nearly $10 billion, were scattered across Russian runways and hangars. The European Union set a hard deadline, March 28, 2022. By that date, every lease with a Russian carrier had to be terminated, and in theory, every foreign-owned plane recovered. Lessors scrambled to make contact with operators, lining up export permits and flight crews, hoping to get their assets out before the window slammed shut. But on March 14, 2022, the Russian government issued its own decree. Foreign-owned jets were re-registered as Russian property, and no plane could leave without official permission. Airports blocked departures, and air traffic control refused clearances. By the numbers, analysts at IBA identified 589 lesser-owned aircraft tied to Russian carriers, and about 80% of them were physically inside Russia as the deadline passed. The Cape Town Convention's registry and international contracts provided no leverage when faced with sovereign power. A few lessors managed to outmaneuver the blockade. One standout case involved BOC Aviation, which coordinated a legal and logistical sprint to recover a Boeing 747-8 freighter from Airbridge Cargo. With original logbooks in hand and a rare court order, the jet was flown out of Hong Kong and landed safely in California by late March. But these victories were exceptions. For nearly every plane that made it home, dozens more remained stranded, trapped by a system where, in the end, physical possession mattered more than legal title. The rules of the global leasing game had met a sovereign wall, and the wall did not budge. AerCap stands at the center of the leasing world, managing a fleet of more than 1,700 owned aircraft. In 2022, the company faced a blow that rippled through the entire industry, a pre-tax write-off of $2.7 billion for jets and engines stranded in Russia. With physical recovery blocked, the battle shifted from airports to courtrooms. AerCap filed insurance claims totaling $3.5 billion, targeting policies with AIG and Lloyd's that covered 116 aircraft and about 23 engines. The process was slow, grinding through filings and negotiations. In September 2023, AerCap secured a settlement of $645 million from Russian insurer NSK for aircraft leased to Aeroflot and Rossiya. 3 months later, another $572 million arrived for 47 aircraft tied to Ural Airlines and S7. But even these deals left a gap. On June 11, 2025, a London court awarded AerCap roughly $1 billion, raising the tally of recoveries tied to the Ukraine conflict to about $2.5 billion. 3 years of litigation, settlements, and judgments had clawed back only part of what was lost. For the world's largest lessor, recovery meant years in court, and even then, the return was a fraction of the vanished fleet. An aircraft is rarely a single unified asset. Instead, it is a bundle of parts, each with its own owner, contract, and value. The airframe, the visible shell of the jet, might be leased from one company, but the engines, which alone can be worth $10 million to $20 million each, are often owned or financed by someone else entirely. This split matters. When a lessor moves to repossess a plane, they might recover the fuselage, but not the engines, the most valuable moving parts. Engines carry their own tracking numbers, maintenance histories, and legal paperwork. In practical terms, repossession is often incomplete. A lessor can get back the shell, but without the engines, the asset's heart and much of its worth remain out of reach. The aircraft leasing business relies on a kind of global balancing act. Lessors do not just bet on one airline or one country. They spread their risk across more than 100 different airline customers and dozens of legal systems. At the heart of this system stands Ireland, where 14 of the world's 15 largest lessors are based. A 12.5% corporate tax rate and treaty agreements with over 70 countries have turned Dublin into the nerve center of the industry. This concentration brings efficiency, letting lessors pool exposure and move capital at scale. When that cooperation breaks down, as it did in Russia, the entire model is tested. The deeper question lingers. In a world built on paperwork, treaties, and trust, who truly owns the sky? Today, over $10 billion in leased jets remain stranded. That is proof that, in aviation, the return is the asset. A paper shield only works if everyone honors the paper. Ownership of the sky depends on trust, not just law. Who really holds the keys when control and possession break apart?